50 people dead in one section of Baghdad alone. That's just the Sunnis. Okay. Now, in retaliation, another 12 dead, 18 injured. When after the 50 people were killed in the Sunni area, the Sunnis launch a couple more explosive-laden vehicles, bombs, cars with bombs in them, and then kill a bunch of Shiites in response. Now, but what's interesting and unfortunate is what happened in this one area of Baghdad that's Sunni. Masked men, black masks, come in, obviously Shiite. People believe that it is the Muqtada al-Sadr's Mahdi army. He's the cleric that we can't seem to get under control in Iraq. And he has, by the way, 30 Iraqi politicians in his back pocket. Okay, and he nearly selected the prime minister. So this is not a guy that is not involved in the political process. This is not a small beans kind of guy. So now it's not absolutely, he denies it, obviously. But one of the people, after torturing and killing one of the guys, left a message with their relatives saying, "This is the Mahdi army. We killed your brother. Go pick him up at the local morgue." And they could be lying.
So Iraq is rife with people pretending to be who they're not.
That's entirely true. So take that. But one thing is clear: whoever did it, here's what they did. They started walking through the streets and going into people's houses and taking people off the street and handcuffing them, drilling holes in them. Okay, drilling holes in them, nailing them, literally like nail and hammers, putting nails through them, shooting them in the back of the head. There were 50 bodies in the houses, in the streets, in the middle of the day. Just come and just start butchering people. Are you a Sunni? Tell us your last name. Check the papers. If they think, it might even be Shiites, but if they think it's a Sunni last name and you're in a Sunni district of Baghdad, well, then it's just a very, very sad day for you, because you're going to get a couple of holes drilled through you. And terrible, grotesque torturing of these people and killing of them. Now, what do we call this? This is supposed to be, first of all, George Bush would call it progress.
Right.
Raise your hand if you think that's progress. Number two...
sorry, you were being rhetorical.
Yeah. Number two, sectarian strife. See, strife is like headbutting somebody in the chest.
Right.
That's strife. Okay.
When I hear strife, I think of, I'm sure I'm wrong about the definition here, but I think a lot of tension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the tension in a room when Tucker Carlson and Anderson Cooper walk in at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we got strife. When you drill a hole through somebody's head...
That seems like more than strife.
Just a little more than strife, if you ask me.
Yeah,
okay.
like war.
Yeah, perhaps. So, this is what we talk about all the time. The Republicans can have their talking points, and the people who call in can say, "No, you guys are unfair. You guys are liberals, and you're against Bush." Yeah, you can live in whatever fantasy world you want to live in. But as Al Gore once said, and I'm paraphrasing here, reality has a way of imposing itself on you. And there is a reality on the ground in Iraq, whether you don't like our politics or you disagree with us for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. Because we're right. And the reason we're right is not because of politics, it's because we read the goddamn newspaper, okay? And we see the news accounts, and we see the people with their heads drilled in, and whether you like it or you don't like it, you hate us or you don't hate us, what you're going to find out soon is we were dead right, and it is an absolute nightmare on the ground in Iraq. There is no progress. They're not going to keep the government together, and this whole fairy tale of, we're turning a corner, and the insurgency is almost over, and we're going to, last throws, and we're going to get a peace deal, and democracy is going to work, and Bush is going to be justified in his great democratization of the Middle East program. It's not ever going to happen in Iraq the way they say. Will there eventually be a democracy 20 years, 50 years, 100 years from now? Of course, because it is inevitable.
And in 100 years, George Bush can say, "Aha, I told you."
But, George, you missed the whole goddamn point. Democracy would have been a hell of a lot better off if we didn't start it with bombs. If it developed organically, like it was in Iran before you started screwing that country up. Another story in the LA Times also over the weekend about how the police force in Iraq is so thoroughly corrupted. Police officers go and kidnap people and ask for extortion to get them back. There was a police officer captain.
That happens in a lot of Americans.
Right. who would...
What would Don Rumsfeld say to that? Just because I said American cities. Remember when we talked about, how there was violence in some cities? He'd be like, well, there are a lot of American cities that are very violent. What do you... He'd be like, yeah, well, it's not safe always to walk down the streets of Detroit. But we deal with it. Next question.
Well, then there's the cops that come in and torture people. And then there's the cops who come in and torture people for material gain. Like, we'll release your... And here's the interesting part of it. They have two different categories. If you're rich enough to pay off an extortion to the cops, they will not drill a hole through or burn with electric wires your relative. They'll hold them until you pay the ransom. If you're not rich enough, they figure, we'll chalk it up to another dead Sunni or another dead Shiite, and they torture and kill.
Apparently we're not training these guys well, because I think that sort of not extorting people under threat of violence would be one of the first things you would train people for.
Well, in the LA Times article, you see that the guys who are supposed to be training them are up in an air-conditioned office in the middle of the green zone.
Right, because they don't want to die, and I don't blame them.
And besides which, they have no control over these police. What are they going to do? They're going to go into those places and be like, hey, seriously, guys, you should stop all of the grotesque criminal activity you're doing. Yeah, they say that, and then Ahmed laughs and says, wait till Sacramento leaves. Here's one of the cops here, to give you a sense of how much, this is all about the money, man. It's about, of course, the Shiite-Sunni problems, right? And that's clearly part of it, but it's also about the money. Number one, to sign up other police officers, they say, yeah, we can sign you up and get you on the payroll, but you got to pay me. Then you got the ghost employees, it's like the mafia, right here in America, but on a much more grand scale. And other cops that goes in and says, yeah, these car dealerships, I kind of like them. So he arrests the guy who runs the cars dealership for no reason, absolutely no reason. He arrests him, throws him in jail, says, I'm confiscating all the cars. He confiscates them. He sells most of them. Doesn't sell them. He gives them to his relatives. He takes a bunch for himself, and I assume he sold the rest.
Yeah, he sold. Right. I'm gonna look. There's something else, because if you hear that there's a car dealership, and I'm sure some people out there think, well, there's a car dealership, there's commerce going on. How could it be in the middle of the Civil War? And I think we've said this before, but some time ago, that the perception of the Civil War is that in every block, in every quarter of the country, people are shooting at each other, and that is not true. And in fact, of course, during the American Civil War, commerce went on. People woke up in the morning, and if you weren't a soldier, you went to your job, and you got a paycheck. And
of course.
But it's odd, because in Iraq, I keep wondering, when they go and you read this terrible story in the LA Times, and you read about the extortion just for personal gain, just for booty, essentially, for ill-gotten booty, or ill-booten gaudy. But you go in there for the ill-gotten booty, and I'm thinking, or just to steal the money and the kidnapping, and I think, what are you going to do with the money? It's Iraq. It's a civil war. What do you go, shopping? You go to the mall?
But of course they are.
No, but of course they are.
Of course they are. I mean, look, everybody's head isn't exploding at the same time. There's 27 million people in Iraq, roughly, right? So, yeah, like Benson, you got to go to school, you got to go to work, and you hope you don't get blown up that day. You hope you don't get kidnapped that day. And if you have any kind of resources, there's another enormous problem in Iraq today. You leave the country, you get the hell out. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And they're shooting professors in the head for being professors. Now, how many professors do you think are going to stay in the country? Same with scientists and doctors. And a lot of the educated people in Iraq are like, this is literally a war zone. Enough's enough. I'm out of here. And they're running away. And all that's left behind is the militias, unfortunately. Not all, but increasingly so. And the people who are fighting each other. And there's no quick answer to this. There's no proper answer to this. And I'll tell you one thing that didn't make it a bit of difference is all those American kids there getting killed in the middle of this for no goddamn reason.
Yeah.